Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lambremont Weber, and I was just heading out our very special guest, extraordinary guest, who's award-winning UFO filmmaker Patty Greer of cropcirclefilms.com. I said, Patty, this feels like old times, and
It
it's new
does.
times on New Earth. And for those who are just joining us, and for those who have been with us for a long time, Patty Greer is a prominent UFO filmmaker who has produced 8 full feature crop circle and UFO films in record time, 10 years. I wish I could produce that many books in 10 years.
There's no life in the middle except being in the crop circles, which I can't complain about.
Her movies received 8 prestigious awards, including 5 EBEs at the International UFO Congress Convention. How do you do this? Her films offer unrelenting evidence and explosive footage of crop circles being produced by spinning plasma fields that appear to humans as, quote, balls of light. Patty Greer's conclusions after producing 8 films and visiting the lab of the great scientist William Levengood is that, quote, crop circles are produced by counter-rotating spinning plasma vortices coming out of the earth. Now, that is a scientific hypothesis and conclusion that is at the edge of crop circle science. That is crop circle science. They are not coming from the sky, they are coming from the earth. Additionally, the films explain how crop circle seeds are growing 30 to 400% more food and biofuel per plant, with up to 75% more nutrition per seed. So you get into 5D agriculture, I would say. Her 8th film, Crop Circle Diaries, received 2 EBE awards at the 2017 International UFO Congress for, quote, Best UFO Feature Film and, quote, People's Choice Award. These are important films for today's world, and you can see these films at Crop Circle Films. Well, that your bio is just explosive. I mean, it is like so much concentrated energy. You are a crop circle yourself, I would say. Well, from what I've heard, you're here to tell us about the 2019 crop circles. There have been some extraordinary developments, and I am going to turn the mic over to you so that you can tell us about the 2019 crop circles, which is extraordinary. They're brand new developments. Patty Greer, take it away.
Thank you, Captain Al. Uh, I want to begin just bringing the audience into a reminder of a couple of very famous crop circles. It surprises me, but in mixed company, mixed audiences, a lot of people don't really know what they are. And so you've got these pictograms that are laid out in a field of wheat. And some of them can be just like 40 square feet, 40-foot diameter. And some of them can be up to 800-foot diameter. So we've got a huge variety. Thousands have been documented over the years, all over the world. Some of them are actually in writing, in a binary code. We've even seen Morse code. We've seen sacred geometry, which is where the pattern comes out like a kaleidoscope from the center and all directions match across. So you've got the symmetry, you've got the mathematics, and the mathematics are such as a crop circle laid down in 3 hours of darkness in the middle of the night in southern England. In my favorite, and this is one of the 2 historic ones I want to talk about, 409 circles in a spiral of flawless mathematics Fibonacci sequence. Do you remember that spiral of 409 circles, that crop circle, Alfred?
You know, I'm sure. Yes, I do. I mean, they are so amazing that you're just blown away. But yes, I do. I do remember that. It's amazing.
So you've got like a pinwheel of Fibonacci sequences. I don't even remember counting them, but it was so stunning. And because I was there all summer for years in a row, luckily I was one of the people that Charles let into his center, and kind of told me the truth about things, because he was out at 5 in the morning, at 4 in the morning, and he was a local there, and he owned the research center, so he had to open at 10. So he was always the first person in the crop circles, and he lived there. So he'd go out, and that 409 circles crop circle happened on a rainy night. It was all mud in the circle and outside below the crop. And he said he walked the entire perimeter at 5 a.m. when the sun was just coming up, and there wasn't one footprint. So when you've got 409 circles, I just watched an interview where the farmer actually that owned the land said, "No, man, it happened all in one night. 409 circles, not possible." And the layout on a rainy night, I mean, how can we deny it? But I think the other one that was absolutely mind-boggling was the alien face in the disc, and that was August 15th, 2002 in Hampshire, England. And that was the one where we had this big alien face, and next to it was the round disc with the binary code. Do you remember that one? Very famous.
Yes, yes. I I remember that one. I do. I do.
It was before I even thought about crop circles. How could you not? It was like on every paper and all the magazines, um, and of course all the gossip stuff at the grocery store where we're all standing in line, reading these things. And there's this crop circle, the alien face in the disc. But let's look at historically, that happened the summer after 9/11. So, no matter what people believe about 9/11, perhaps we weren't told the whole story. So, this crop circle, this alien face, which was flawless, it looked like a gray to most people. And then there was this huge disc the size of his head that had mathematics. It had not mathematics, it was code, binary code. And it was deciphered by Paul Vigay, who went missing. And I think early computer days also, that it was read by computer mathematicians and Paul Vigay. And it was specifically that they all agreed on what the message was. Now, keep in mind, after 9/11, this was the binary code readout. And in my opinion, historic crop circles messaging. It said, "Beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Much pain, but still time. Believe there is good out there. We oppose deception." Conduit closing. Now, who sends a message like that? And so let's talk about briefly the gossip of, okay, you've got 409 circles without a human footprint on a rainy night that weren't there yesterday. And the farmer's like, "Wasn't there yesterday," and it's flawless. It couldn't have been human made. And then you've got this alien face in a disc with a message that describes the times that we are moving into so prolifically in binary code in a field of undulating wheat. I mean, it's windy and the fields are so beautiful, but everything's moving. How can you, from an airplane, film, which I was doing all the time, photos and film, crop circles when the wind is blowing, and still get a perfect pictogram or perfect mathematics? So these patterns are precise, and their messages are very, very strong, in my opinion. Um, So now we're moving into this time where we are now, and all along we've got all these crop circles all over the world being documented, but most of them in southern England. 150 crop circles, 77 in Wiltshire. The next year, 155, 76 in Wiltshire. So there's like sprinkled around the world, but always the epicenter has been Wiltshire, England. Why Wiltshire? Well, as we documented all the crop circles everywhere, we noticed that almost every crop circle is sitting over an aquifer of water, a pool of water, an underground stream. Another thing about all the crop circles, almost all, is that they are all sitting on a ley line, which is a direct line between two sacred sites. So you've got this high frequency of spirituality between two sacred sites and water resonating with whatever it is that's going on up here, probably more so below because you've got this reflecting water that's picking up the frequencies of the earth. Well, you've also got the earth. And the earth herself, we call it a female, divine earth, whatever we want to call it. We could call it male, but I've known it as the earth. So here she is. She's this living being, and people say, "Oh, living, haha." Well, she grows trees like we grow hair, and she grows plants and gardens and everything we need, pretty much, as long as we plant our seeds and, or frankly, ignore a tropical place and food's just everywhere if we just, behave. So here's this living being, and here we are, we're sucking out her blood, we're drilling it out with the fracking and the oil drilling, and we're polluting here and poisoning the water. I mean, it's so endless, and she's been very, very patient. But here we are all along since the 80s, definitely noticing 150 at least crop circles documented, most of them in the sacred sites of southern England, that are giving us information. And people are saying, "Oh, it means this," and somebody else says, "Oh, it means that." And in my opinion, they're probably both right, because there are these ways, in my opinion, that the earth is speaking to her people. This is not alien spaceships going over a field and sending down this laser message, or a military satellite sending down these laser patterns, which of course could be done easily, but that's not what's going on in crop circles. And the only reason I know is because I've been in more than 100 of them personally, and you could blindfold me and walk me down the tram line, which is a tractor line, and I can tell you we're 10 feet from that formation. We're 10 feet from something with my eyes closed. The hair goes up on your arms, little tingles on your head. When you get near a crop circle, if you're sensitive, if you're open, even if you have no idea what's coming, all of a sudden, zzz, it's mind-boggling. And you can't make this stuff up. I've been in so many. Only one made me nauseous. The other, at least 99 or more, were like heaven. I mean, absolutely. Where if people don't want to hear about it, that's okay. If they don't want to believe it, that's okay. If my movies are hacked any further moving forward, that's okay. I was there. I had the experience. And the reason I made the films is I wanted to bring it home to my family, my friends. I wanted them to have the experience, even if they didn't want to travel. That's why I started filming. It wasn't like I was a filmmaker or bucket list. Never. No, I walked in that first one and wow. So now we've got this living earth, and it appears that once we learn the science, that crop circles, truly the science without all the foo-foo, BBC, whatever, NBC, filmmakers that are trying to create some, major story about how crop circles happen. Scientifically, all those hundreds of baled up product of crop circle wheat, barley, corn, and corn is like thick. I mean, to bend corn, and they would actually go round rather than 90 degree because corn stalks are so big, but they were just all showing up at William Levengood's lab in Michigan. So William Levengood and his secret partner for the last 16 years, my friend Penny Kelly, were experimenting with all this Crop Circle product to see what on earth is going on, where are they coming from, do they have alien, and there were some strange magnetics found on some of the crop, but they absolutely proved with magnets and plants that were from the crop circles going up and down that the mathematics exactly measured the same as, actually I have William Levengood's words right here. This is fascinating. William Levengood was convinced that the vortex was the form or the active action that was happening to create a crop circle. They discovered it was plasma by using a plant and waving a magnet up and down to achieve certain results. The distribution of particles exactly matched the mathematics formula for counter-rotating vortices in the way they throw material. Levengood concluded that it was a charged density plasma operating in the field and that it was a plasma vortex. So now what you have is these pairs in crop circles of counter-rotating spinning plasma fields, and they're a vortex. So they go to a point at the bottom, and ultimately what I learned, because here I am, crappie, and I'm up on the hills at night, and we're watching these balls of light, we're, like, what are they? And you'd never know because you can't see spinning plasma. But when these fields come out of the ground in counter-rotating pairs, when they get to the exact frequency that they're ready to lay the field down, they heat to the point where what our eyes as humans, if we're lucky enough to be there looking in the field that night, what we see is a ball of light. And what that ball of light literally is a spinning plasma field. That's the bottom of the cone. And it's so hot, it lays down the field in a matter of seconds. And that's why when we go and examine the wheat, barley, corn, that instead of it being broken where it's bent, it's not. It has a bubble or a blown bubble, which is called a node or a blown node. And if there's a blown node, there's black sometimes where the steam went out. So what made it so hot? Well, it would be that spinning plasma field. And when it got to that perfect heat frequency, it laid down that part of the formation. And the other spinning plasma field maybe laid down identical, or maybe it laid down a slightly different pattern. But here's how Lefty, Levengood, described the plasma vortex, which he said they're built with distinct boundary conditions of different frequencies. So when we hear about, which I was involved in a few, groups of people meditating in the Webre stone circle or in their living room, and they're looking at a picture and they're all praying together, we would like to see a crop circle, and boom, the next day it happens. It's because one of these layers of frequency in the plasma spinning vortex is human consciousness. How would human? Well, it's because they're coming out of the earth and she's listening. She's listening, she's feeling, she understands what the people are going through. And when she has, again, this is just my perception, but a full feeling that people really want proof so that they'll keep doing the work, we get our crop circle. So these plasma vortexes can have up to 10 different kinds of frequencies. I had to look at my little list. Sometimes they can be microwave, which is when the fields are all askew and it's not a good energy for the wheat, of course. And then there are ion, electron, avalanche energies, thermogradients, convective stability, and there are other areas that are undergoing turbulence, such as electrical fields, and all of those energies have very distinct and boundary conditions. So what we have is a lot of energy that came out of the earth, with the intention of laying down a hummingbird. Well, why? What's that about? And the summer that the hummingbird happened, there was also a thunderbird, an owl, a 15-foot long octopus, a squid, an ancient orthoceras sea creature. So now I'm thinking, what? And then a bee. So you've got your birds, your fish, and the really ancient ones. We had the rising phoenix with flames coming out of her tail in 2009. So now we've got fish, birds, bees, dragonfly with veins in the wings. I mean, it was exquisite. And guess what happened? The following spring, the BP oil spill killed millions of birds, fish, insects. So here I am, the little crappie girl, thinking, oh gosh, that's what that was. The whole summer we had no mathematics, hardly any sacred geometry, all birds, fish, insects, and the ancient ones. With the insect world, there was the dragonfly and the scarab, crop circle. So how can we ignore this? Well, we can ignore it, but you and I have done a lot of shows together, Alfred, where we've kind of gone through the evolution of me learning about crop circles by being in a lot of them, but I never knew the science until I went into the lab and made my final film, Crop Circle Diaries. So my website again is cropcirclefilms.com. There's 8 movies, but Crop Circle Diaries, when we got into the science, that's where I feel like I was right on target. Did you follow all that science in the lab of William Levengood, Alfred?
Oh yes, I mean this is extraordinary, and I was just wondering how, it's for me, how, I mean, could you elucidate? Do you think, how is it that the mind of Earth translates the images of the crop circles to the understanding of the human mind, do you think?
Great question. I think your microphone is up high.
I'm sorry.
So I was going, I
Yeah,
can hear
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. Let
You want
me
to repeat
repeat
your
it.
question?
Yeah, how is it? This question occurred to me as I was, hearing about all the different animals and insects and bees that were in the crop circles. How is it, do you think, that the mind of the earth can create all of these diverse images in a way that communicates to the minds of the human? What do you think, without, uh, anthropomorphizing as we talk all the time? Have you given thought to how that equation occurs or might occur?
That's a great question. And my first thought was, have you ever been to Hawaii and seen her tropical plants? How could there be that many different tropical plants? And who designed them? They look like they've got painting stripes and and who designed them? And then you see the birds with the outrageous colors, and there's more with outrageous colors. That's the consciousness, in my opinion, that's making crop circles. It's not a mind or a brain, it's a consciousness. And it's also more ebb and flow because she doesn't have to make a living, perhaps. So it's about what she feels, she gives back. And how we evolve, she has to kind of flex with it. So I've wondered that also, really, because some of them are so ornate, but most of them you can tell what they are. Most of them you can recognize it, but most people don't know why we would see so much sacred geometry. So this guy in Holland sent me this video where he took a crop circle that was like a mandala, a big circle, and it had this ornate pattern and came out from the center, and this side matched that side, and you know, it was like, yeah. And then all of a sudden he started to spin it, like you put a pin in the middle and spin that crop circle, and it looked like a propeller. And I thought, oh, look at all these crop circles. So when I was doing my talks, when I used to tour and talk about crop circles, I would suggest that people might like to look at the ones that, in my opinion, if you spin them, they look like spaceship propulsion. And so instead of showing 2 or 3, I showed 60. And I spun them. And after you see like 10, you're almost dizzy because it just looks like, you know, a sparse kind of pattern, and you know, comes out from the same side the same. But when you spin it, all of a sudden it's like, whoa. So which of my videos did I spin crop circles? One of them. And it may have been Crop Circle Update, the wake up call, but boy, was that an eye opener, because all of a sudden it just opened a whole new can of worms, which the 2019 crop circles are reminding me of.
Right, right. Yeah. Now you started talking to me about the 2019, and it's as though there has been a great shift. You know, that as though the Earth is taking a political or social pulse of humanity and is sort of migrating. And so could you talk to us about that?
Yes, and you know, I was on Coast to Coast a couple nights ago, and I totally forgot to mention, as we look at the punchline of what I'm about to say, why France? You know, the epicenter has always been England. We've got the Avebury Stone Circle, we've got Stonehenge, Glastonbury, and the 40-mile square radius, round radius, in that area is where we have seen most of the crop circles. In 2019, I belong to the cropcircleconnector.com. Highly recommend it if you like crop circles. So every day that there's a crop circle, or if there's 3, I get an email that shows me pictures of the crop circle, the location, comments of the people that walked in. It's a great website. And you can also dig into the archives as a member of how many crop circles have come before it. So this summer, it starts out, there's 3. I'm going to go remind myself the exact numbers. I think there were like 3 in England in May. Nice slow start. June, what, all these crop circles in France, 1 in England, 2 more in France, 1 in England. And I'm thinking, what, France, what's going on there? And by the end of summer, we had 16 crop circles in France this year, 15 in the UK. So that's still kind of neck and neck, but we never had anything of the kind, ever. 2 in Switzerland, 2 in Russia, 1 in the Czech Republic. My favorite, though, was the one in Poland. And I think it kind of set the stage for the rest of the crop circles, even though it came kind of mid-June or late June. Let's see, the Poland, June 29th. In Wolka, I can't even try and pronounce it, but it was Orchowo, Poland. All of a sudden we see this crop circle, and usually when they first appear, they're green, you know, because the crop is alive and it's green. Later in the season, in August, you start to see them brown when they're ready to be harvested and the crop is ending its season. So nope, we've got this June 29th, not even July yet, and this is a brown crop circle in Poland. And the pattern was absolutely stellar, because here we are.
Should we share it?
Yes.
Would you like to share it?
I'm going to have you share it. Yes.
Okay, good. Let me just go there. and bring it up. So
Awesome. Well, then
good.
I don't even have to describe it. I love it. So what we have here is a pattern that everybody's used to seeing. It's a yin yang. And in the yin, she's got this big, round, perfect circle at the bottom. And the yang is supposed to have the perfect circle at the bottom. And it's always that perfect balance, except look at this interesting one, where the male energy at the big, beautiful ball is completely outside the formation. Now, everybody can have different perceptions of what does this mean? And because we're looking at an interesting time in history where we hope everything's about to change a lot, what we see here is a rebalancing, in my opinion. And it is so extreme, this rebalancing, that they actually had to put a big piece of perhaps male patriarchal, not man woman, but that patriarchal power outside the formation until it chills out and we can bring the earth back to a balance. That's what I see in this crop circle. And then we go to some of the French crop circles, and I just looked at them again on Saturday, the whole series of 16, with a very few exceptions. Why don't you pull up number 2?
Okay, let me go there. And there we go.
So with very few exceptions, we had a summer of crop circles that were, I'm still seeing the old one.
Oh, you are. Sorry. They must be. Let me just close this. Let me just stop the share, and then let me start the new share. Maybe that's what's going on. Yeah. Oops. What's going on? Is the new one sharing now?
Yes.
Oh, good.
So what we see in all of them, almost, and there were very few exceptions, are these, if you can imagine, a straight line axis point up the middle, and these series of lunar shapes and crescents and points, which may suggest astronomical markers involving planetary alignments. It could suggest the 4 phases of the moon. And here I am, as a female, seeing what I see at the bottom of this formation, which is the goddess with her arms up celebrating. I kept seeing in all these formations an axis line down the middle. And again, if we spin them, they're all going to be these very round spiral messages the whole summer. France, then back to England, it was the ant crawling out of the earth, and it was meticulous and fabulous. And then 2 more in France with all of these crescents and all of these planets and all of these alignments that appear to be giving us information, perhaps timelines, perhaps. So these are just different ideas, but I continue to see female power. And what's interesting is I've been on this, I hardly ever watch TV, but Netflix, I've been watching Scandal, because I'm curious, how is the government getting away with this much this long? And so I've been watching this, but what's interesting is it's women in power. And they're, so we're moving into a time, I believe, where the crop circles are giving us enough information on a regular basis that we need to be looking at when it's this consistent. And in France, it was this consistent, but why would the earth uproot her deliveries from England all these years, where she's got all these big, beautiful stone circles and all these people with their witchy stuff and their spider webby house and their big, beautiful English gardens? Why would she take her crop circles and all that attention and literally move it somewhere else. This is only my interpretation, but it's my personal feeling because I stopped going. I stopped going to England in 2014, 5 years ago. Now, it was so fantastic for so long. I loved every summer. We had kind of regular crappies that would come in from all these different countries around the world. We'd wander through the circles together. We'd meet in the middle. Not a lot of talking because, you know, being in them is, you want to be pretty quiet. At least I did. So it was really warm and friendly. The farmers were cool. They didn't even come in and talk to us hardly ever. It was like open borders. We were welcome. And there was Crop Circle etiquette that was on our websites that said, obviously, don't smoke, don't leave trash, don't leave bottles, you know, be respectful to the farmer, only walk in the tractor lines, which are called tram lines, so that you don't step on his wheat and destroy his crop. And so we were a very respectful group of people, and all of a sudden it changed. All of a sudden, the restaurants and bars where I loved going and talking with people about crop circles became almost aggressively not nice to me as an American. And a few other Americans mentioned it. So people would say, tell people you're from Canada. But I don't do that. I'd say I'm from America, but I didn't vote for any of them. And then they'd let me in. But it was an interesting early bunch of years, but still warm and friendly. And the B&Bs were really cool. You know, you're eating with people and talking and learning about their area. But first thing in the morning, we'd always get a hit of a new crop circle and fly out. So it changed, and all of a sudden the farmers were not letting us in. And we were wondering, why are the farmers being told not to? And now there's all this policing going around the crop circle areas, and it got strange. And then there seemed to be a lot more military interaction. And at night, when we were up on the hills watching for those amazing orange balls of light, we would see military flares going up that were orange up on the hill over the same fields. So it was almost like this intentional distraction, and it was less welcoming. And I remember one year when I left, I was at this B&B for weeks, which is not inexpensive. And when I left, the husband drank too much, and he got really angry because he knew I had filmed a lot. And he threatened to plant something in my suitcase because his brother works at the airport and caused me horrific this and that. And that was it for me. I was just like, oh God, that did not happen. So I came back with a boyfriend in 2010 and 2011 and, you know, filmed a whole bunch more and made more movies. But it changed. It changed like other things have been changing in the last few years that used to be cool, and now they're just infiltrated. They're no longer cool. Crop circles in southern England had that feeling for me, and I quit going. I quit filming. Now, for me to quit, it was pretty bad. And when I realized that the earth herself quit and put the focus over there at France, I went, good one, Mama. Good one, Mother Earth. I agree. High five. You know, I mean, I take it personally because I shifted, and now to see the focus shifting. There were still a lot of crop circles in England, but they weren't as interesting, in my opinion, as the ones in France. And again, the ones in France, they're over an aquifer of water. A lot of them are near these churches. And then one of these ones with the goddess with the arms up in like the bottom here that's still on screen actually had a baby in the belly. And then another one appeared to have a baby off to the side. And when I looked at this one, I just thought, this is the birthing of a new earth. This is what the 2019 crop circles have been saying to me. And that's what I saw in France. And the movement from England to France. And now look what country has been the most up in arms against their government. France. They've been really making noise for a long time. Well, look at them. They're kind of, shall we say, ahead of the game. Perhaps that's why she picked France. But it wasn't just France. It was kind of in the root of the divine Mary Magdalene path. A lot of the churches, the Mother Mary churches, are near where these crop circles went down. So I do believe that what we are dealing with is this beautiful earth energy. How they're coming to us, great question you asked, is that the earth is listening to her people. She's feeling the pulse of the planet and her people and the wildlife and the fires and the fracking and all of this. She feels it. She doesn't have anything to do. She doesn't have a job to go to. We are the job. And I believe that crop circles have been her way of communicating to humanity through math and art, which is a language that she knows we understand. So for me, crop circles are no mistake. The only mistake is letting the news out there take over the conversation and say, yeah, it's guys with boards and ropes, go back to sleep. That's why we're not talking about it. But the punchline is, why would they spend so much money to film guys with boards and ropes? What's that about? And I think it's ultimately about the fact that my final movie, Crop Circle Diaries, proved that the seeds inside crop circles are growing 30 to 400% more food and biofuel per plant, with up to 75% more nutrition per seed. Now, this was proven in the lab with William Levengood and Penny Kelly, who brought us the fact that they're not coming out of spaceships or satellite shooting down patterns and lasers from the military, that they're actually coming out of the earth in spinning plasma fields. And the evidence, because I know it happened to me, without a doubt it happened to me, that I was in a situation and a crop circle happened the next day. When we're in, and we get shown what it is that we need to know so that we are unrelenting in our pursuit to help people understand. But crop circles, I wouldn't be so excited about, oh, look at these fabulous pictures and look at this binary code that gave us information. It's more about the punchline, which is the seeds are super seeds. And Lefty and Penny, William Levengood and Penny, figured out how to reproduce the science happening in crop circles. And I saw the machine and it plugged into the wall. And he called it a charge density plasma machine. It was 2 round metal plates and stems on the side like sticks that held them apart. And there was an electric wire that went to a little box that was charge density plasma. And I remember, because I took a picture, it was set at 30. So whatever that means, I really want people to mass produce these charge density plasma frequency machines. What I also learned was that they were experimenting with the charge density plasma, but they weren't getting massive effects. They were getting good results, but it wasn't until William Levengood found a packet of seeds that had fallen to the corner of his desk when he was cleaning his desk one day. And he went to throw them in the trash, and a little voice came in and said, "Don't do that." And he thought, and went to put them in the trash, and he heard that little voice, "Don't do that." So he took those seeds and he looked at it again, and they're shriveled, and he said, no proper seedsman would ever do anything with these seeds. But he trusted his subconscious thinking or his higher thinking, and he loaded those seeds into a germination paper and put them in the germination tank. And he said within days they grew like gangbusters, and they way outgrew all of the other seeds. from inside the crop circle to outside the crop circle. Once they were dried up, shriveled, and begging for life, that inner core of the seed was tested. And then when they put it in the charged density plasma machine, it turned into a superseed. And it was consistent there, growing 30 to 400% more food and biofuel per plant, with up to 75% more nutrition per seed. So this is really important science. And the fact that they're coming out of the earth, it's an earth science. It's not even some UFO woo-woo thing, and it's certainly not a conspiracy theory. It's an earth science that was proven to be effective, and it's been coming to us that we know of since the 1700s, and it's not stopping anytime soon. But I think just the fact that the earth herself is so conscious that she moved to France when France is speaking out to the world, standing up, setting an example. I mean, Alfred, is that prolific? To me, it is. That's the earth listening to her people.
Right, right. And there's a third crop circle. Would you like me to bring that up?
Sure.
Yeah. Let me open it and then we'll oops, let me see if I can do that. Yes, and then we'll just stop the share because I've got to do that little thing. It's bring it there.
It's just another example of a French crop circle again. Yeah. But you know, if you turned it a little bit, you know, a quarter turn left, it got misshapen, or I would have. What does that look like? Is that a goddess with her arms up dancing? To me, it is. But if you stuck a long pin through that axis and spun it, it might look like something else. Now, a lot of people, you know, they see the Islam crescent. So what we have with crop circles is a lot of different perceptions. And I never tell anybody they're wrong or that I'm right about what this crop circle means or what another one means, unless, of course, it is a binary code or a Morse code or some kind of code where it's literally in writing. But I just find it fascinating that the earth herself has been sending these messages to humanity for this many years. Unrelenting. Beautiful. So, films. Oh my gosh, what a thing to choose to do. I made 8. I received 5 EBEs. I used to be a speaker. I loved my career, but like everything else, I'm old enough, you're old enough. We have chapters. So that chapter, you know, that I'm even talking about crop circles is just kind of a little comeback on a few shows, my friends, and Coast to Coast Never Hurts. But what I think is important is to, what I learned in the last 2 years is to only talk about what we know, what we've seen, what we've experienced. I'm saying for myself, you don't have to, because you report news around the world, around the planet, and other planets. So for me, I'm being a lot more conscious to only talk about what I know is true. And crop circles are true. They're definitely real. I've never had any doubt since the first time I walked in. But I don't know if it's because Monsanto owns the government and the superseeds are a threat to them because we can bring our food supply back ultimately with this technology. I don't know why it's been so difficult to get the films out, but it has been. So I'm gifting the world. It's my legacy that these movies will get out as they do, that people will see them as they may. And I do have 4 of them streaming for free, cropcirclefilms.com/free. Or you can just go to the website. All 8 movies are there. You can hopefully buy them later today. It appears that when I was on Coast to Coast, somehow my website store was compromised. So anyway, it's just like the I'd like to say the good old days, but the bad old days, it's not a battle I want to be in. So I'm in my next chapter now. How about you, Alfred?
Uh, yes, yes, right thing. Well, we founded this new. It's called the New Earth Community, and I want to invite you and everyone to our first meeting. We meet on the third Saturday of every month, starting on Saturday, January 18th, for the first meeting, and Sunday, January 19th, for the meeting in Spanish. But um, uh, truth and disclosure is one of the living, one of the elements of the living platform of the New Earth, um, of the living platform of the New Earth community. So there we have it. I mean, you asked me about my chapter, so things are really moving, and we'll be going to France, Jerry and I, in hopefully the late summer, autumn or so, and we'll be sure to do sort of a crop circle tour there. I find it very interesting that it's kind of moving away from Brexit England over to France with the yellow vests and stuff. It's, yeah, very interesting. So, and it's the divine feminine which is really moving forward. So I think that you're, as I see it, I mean, we're all kind of carrying the male and the female in us. That's our sort of claim there, and so I find it very hopeful, this message that you have brought to us today about about the about about the crop circles. Now, you also have brought a very interesting uh, gentleman and new product in the C60 Evo. I know that I've done one program with him, Chris, and his firm, I think, supplied the original C60 for the experiments that produced the Nobel Prize. And I was having a conversation today with someone that it's the same elements as shungite, or there's a close relationship with shungite, which has been found to have a lot of healing properties, and that you have also found, along with the healing properties of the crop circles, that C60 has helped you a lot. Do you want to talk about that, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
I actually give C60 credit for me still being here on Earth. I think C60 has saved my life because I've been really tested a few times. And I started taking it 2.5 years ago, and I was taking a teaspoon, and then I upped it to a tablespoon, and then I just started tipping the bottle because I was in a lot of pain. I was dealing with some pretty horrific, strange stuff, and I lost my faith in doctors. I really just, every time I went, I was stunned. I just felt like, are they being paid to do this, to be less conscious with us now? I mean, it got too out of hand. So all of a sudden, this product shows up, and I took a spoonful, and within 30 minutes, I walked across my cabin like, wait, what? It amazed me that it hit me that quickly. And it was almost like the oil went through my lines, like putting oil in a car. All of a sudden, I was fluid again. But it shocked me how quickly I reacted well to it. So over the years, I saw different labs, I took different products, and I never knew that all of these labs and all of these products were buying their C60 from the original manufacturers, two guys in Texas that met in college. And imagine in your early 20s, the professor of Robert Wong said to him, you guys should make a machine. You should build a reactor to make C60 because it's worth $6,000 a gram. And, you know, you got a couple of kids, they're like, well, heck yeah. And they're both entrepreneurs and they're both scientists. And Chris Burris, the other partner, is, I think he's a mechanical engineer at part with his training. And so the two of them in college decided we're going to do this because at the time gold was worth $300 to $400 an ounce, and this stuff is worth $1,600 a gram. It's like liquid, more than gold. So they built this reactor machine, and it worked. And they've been making C60 for 28 years, and it was used for industrial purposes. They mention all kinds of things. Now they're moving into supplements and solar panels. C60 in solar panels. And the stuff is still so expensive, so valuable. And now there's all these different companies selling online. And you don't know if they're making it in a lab or in their basement or in somebody's garage. And I've seen it in all three. Or in a lab. And so here I am, I'm taking it every day, and you don't know where it comes from. Well, now I do. So I started talking with Chris more over the years, last 2 years, and we made an agreement that I would like to work with him a little bit and help promote his new brand. So he took it from C60, which can be used still for industrial purposes, but he doesn't guarantee it for human consumption. But they do guarantee their upgraded product called ESS60, which is the original formulation that was used in that rat study you were referring to, called the BATI study, BAATI, the Paris BATI study, where they experimented with rats. They had 3 control groups. Some of them lived on water, some of them lived on olive oil, and some of them lived on olive oil with C60. And the olive oil C60 rats outlived the other rats by 90%. 90. That's almost twice the lifespan. So they repeated the test in the lab, I think, with a series of rats, but they didn't repeat the test ultimately at a different time looking for different results. This was specific for longevity. And ultimately, they also found that the rats that had water died with tumors. The rats with olive oil lived 30% longer than the water rats, but they had tumors. And then the C60 rats had no tumors. So this was really an impressive study in 2012, and they used Chris and Robert's ESS60. So now that the market is kind of flushed with, who knows, people using Chinese C60, which may or may not be good, which may or may not have little teeny shards of glass, some people reported. We don't know. But what I know is that I'm only getting my C60 from Chris and Robert down there in Texas that are doing it for 28 years. They're still using graphite rods and burning this and burning that. And I mean, the process, which is on the website page, I think it's on the page called About, really describes the time-consuming effort and the meticulous nature of how they prepare their C60. And all these people now are buying this powder and mixing it at home. And everybody's like, yeah, for $200 you can get, you know, stirring thing on Amazon, you get this, you pour that, and, you know, get the powder. But what they don't realize is that there really is a specific production method if you want it to be bioavailable to your body. So Chris Burris is doing shows now. You want to hear some of his updated shows. Chris Burris with C60 EVO is the name of the new company. C60evo.com is the website. So when you realize the process, you realize that a lot of these people doing it at home don't have non-oxidative vessels. They have these little stirring things, you know, that they got at Amazon, the little lid that comes off. But to make C60 well with the top amount of, what's the word, suspension, or I'm not a scientist, but to have the most amount of C60 in your product, Chris and Robert have these huge airtight kettles that stir for 3 weeks. No air gets in, no heat happens, no light on the product. And then when they pour it, it is the highest purity that it can be, ESS 60, and they make it safe for human consumption. And so now Chris is really trying to get the public to realize you may not want to be buying something that just says C60, because that can be not processed properly for humans. And they've had a few incidences like that, where people are selling cheap C60, not realizing it's not safe. It's not, and we don't want people ruining the field, but we also don't want them getting sick by making it at home. And so the sonication, the heating, a lot of people are bragging, our stuff is sonicated. It's like, that's like saying our stuff is rancid. I mean, in general, it encourages the oil to hit these peaks of heat, which then ruins the quality of the oil. They don't do that at C60 Evo. So as I've been, a documentary filmmaker, now all of a sudden, everywhere I go, I ask way too many questions. Can I see it? I want to see the machine. I want to understand the process. So I did get the honor of going in their lab after they interviewed me for a couple of days, and probably gave each other the wink. Yeah, we can let her in. So door opens and the heat was like boom, like Texas isn't hot enough, but this lab must be 100 degrees. And I'm a girl, so they don't have to worry. I've got an NDA. I'm not saying anything because I didn't understand anything. All I saw was huge. Everything was really big. And the pipes were just massive, and the tubes were massive, and these kettles are just huge, beautiful, chrome, shiny. I mean, oh God, it was so different than the labs that I've seen, is a nice way to say it. It was the real deal. So he weaves me around, and I'm like taking off layers. It's so hot. And finally we get to the piece de resistance, the reactor, the 1991 reactor that they built. And I'm staring at this huge metal contraption, and I'm looking at it, and I said, do those things come in and pull back like these two big metal arms? And he said, yeah, how'd you know? And I said, I saw it in a dream. And then that was it. I was like, guess I'm supposed to be here doing this, helping them, and get my hands on my own free C60. But again, really to put something in our bodies, we need to really know what we're doing. And a lot of people are very trusting. And we're at a time where everything is so carefully monitored, but then there's other things that aren't. And this is one of those fields where there was actually a guy that marketed a product that had no C60 at all. It was just all black carbon. And, it's been this big in the field, and I don't want to go into the drama, but what we want to do is clarify that the ESS 60 is safe for human consumption, and people that want to take it in their bodies really need to know what they're taking and where it's made. And if that lab is a dusty garage or a beautiful lab with proper machinery that's making your C60 without those oxidative accidents or sunlight coming in, there really is pretty much an art to a lot of things this good. But when it comes to making C60 at home, I think a lot of people might be thinking they're taking something really great, whereas it's not bioavailable because it hasn't mixed long enough or been mixed properly, or golly forbid, BC60 that's not safe for humans, whereas it was made for industrial purpose. So yeah, I'm into the C60 thing now. I'm not going to make a documentary Documentary. Oh my God, that's how far I am from making films. I'm not going to do a documentary. I'm just going to kind of live in the field, be part of it, and work with Chris. I really am impressed with what they're doing and the effects that it's had on me. You take C60, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, and Chris actually made a special uh, people who buy it are actually supporting Exopolitics TV, which is very important because if you go onto YouTube, many of our videos cannot be supported by advertising because YouTube and Google have determined that they're not suitable for advertising. And in fact, we have had our videos taken off of YouTube uh, under Google's new rules because we described a false flag event which took place in the UK, and according to Google's new rules, we're spreading fake news, whereas in fact we were going in and showing that that event was a fake event, which was created in order to create synthetic terror, pretty much as for example, the London Bridge event, which just occurred in London during the UK election. Today's December 9th, 2019. There's an election for Prime Minister on December 12th, 2019. And there were two people killed at the London Bridge where they hold a lot of false flags, which was a false flag. That's part of the reason why the Mother Earth is taking the crop circles over to France because of all the false flags that are happening there. And there was a false flag uh, just a couple of days ago at Pensacola, Florida, which at the U.S. Naval Air Station at Pensacola, Florida. uh, I was born on May 24th, 1942, at the U.S. Naval Air Station at Pensacola, Florida. I declared for U.S. president uh, on November 25th, and a week later, they had a tremendous false flag at the U.S. Pensacola Air Station. And my guides told me that false flag occurred because I had declared for president. Isn't that amazing? So that's when I suspended my campaign. I said, no, we're going to take the platform of president and do it at a planetary level because the living platform for the New Earth community is not for one nation, it's for all nations, for the entire planet, because the system, I discovered that the system of nations was actually invented by an exopolitical system to divide and conquer humans. We're way beyond the system of nations. All that the system of nations does is to divide and conquer us, Mexicans versus Americans versus Canadians, right? You know what I'm saying? So this is how they do it. And so it's wonderful when Mother Earth through crop circles can just go, bump a little bit over here in England and then bump over here a little bit in France and then bump a bit over here in Canada, have a little crop circle over here and etc. Maybe you could talk a bit now about where the crop circles are worldwide, because why such a concentration in France and in England? Where are they worldwide? Could you tell us about that?
Well, I'm going to suggest that people go to the cropcircleconnector.com because you can get the full rundown of how many per country. There are some countries that may have had one or two, in history that I wouldn't even think of. And who thinks Poland crop circles, but that one was great. So England has always been, until this summer, number one. Number 2 and 3 were always not France. They were Italy and Holland. Is it Italy? Yeah, Italy and Holland. France very rarely had a large number. That's why this year was just historic. But Italy and Holland, as I recall, had a lot. I hardly ever hear of any in Asia or Africa. But again, there might be. When we get them documented, that's when we hear about them. But imagine how many crop circles there must be that nobody found, that nobody flew over, that no farmer went into. Crop circles can be in grass, in wildflower fields. The crop circles have been found everywhere, city parks. And you look and you think, wow, look at those funny little puddles of laid down grass. And when I realized that a circle of laid down grass at a city park could be a crop circle, I went, oh my God, I've seen one of those once I saw photos. So I think that we don't realize totally how many amazing phenomenon we walk past on a daily basis if we go out in nature or fly in the air, or even, you know, if you live somewhere slightly rural, we need to start looking. And I want to end the show by, thank God I remembered this line. It's, oh my gosh, now I remember where I said it. It's in every film. And I always forget this line, and I got reminded recently, now I want to go back and watch my movies. But in every movie, I say somewhere, and I found a little 3-year-old girl to be the voice, because that's what I saw it being. And the words are these: it's not what you see, it's what you don't see. It's not who you know, it's who you really are. Not words I ever said that I knew of, but I had a boyfriend who experienced balls of light in my bedroom one night, and I woke him up by saying those words. When I got up in the morning, 6 hours later, he was on my nose, like his nose was on my nose, and he was staring in my eyes. Now, to wake up to that is a little alarming, but he was making sure I was breathing. I haven't told this story because I forgot about where those words came from, but he was on my face, and finally I said, okay, back off, and I'll be right back. I have to go to the bathroom. I just woke up, and he grabbed my hand and he goes, no, do you remember what you said in your sleep last night? And I said, honey, please, I'll be right back. And he goes, grip, like white knuckling me. And he said, do you remember? And he repeated what you said in your sleep last night. And I said, well, obviously not. I was sleeping. He said, you woke me up, and I have not been able to sleep since. And you said, it's not what you see, it's what you don't see. Now, I'm a songwriter. He owned a recording studio. I'm like, oh, that's good. Okay, release me. I want to go write that down. And he goes, no, that's not all. And then he told me the second line. It's not who you know, it's who you really are. And I said, oh my God, that's so profound. Please let me go. I need to write it down. So he said, oh no, that's not all. So now I'm like, okay, I just woke up. You're kind of blowing my mind. Love the lyrics. Please don't forget them. How am I going to write this down if you won't let go of my wrist? Good lyrics. He said, I couldn't get back to sleep, but you definitely woke me up, and I was nailed with those eerie, haunting words. And he said, all of a sudden, I saw a car drive behind your house, and it did a U-turn and came toward the house with 2 headlights. And I realized, it's a solid mountain behind your house. That ain't no car. And he said, the first ball of light. Now, this is before I made movies. This is before any of this. It may have been when they tapped me on the head and said, you come with us to England in a couple years. But meanwhile, this is 2001. Oh my God, my memory's so clear. So he said to me, this ball of light came through the ceiling, and it went all the way around the ceiling really slowly. and I was tapping you and I was pushing on you and I was yelling your name and you wouldn't wake up. Now I said, wow, cool dream. And he said, it wasn't a dream. Then the second ball of light came in. It was white on the outside like a headlight. And then when it came through the wall, he said it was bright red. No, bright green, like a glow stick. Oh God, bright green, like a glow stick. Now I said, honey, you had a dream. And now my wrist has, I had no blood left in my hand because he was in such shock. And he'd waited 6 hours for me to not be dead and to wake up and open my eyes. So now he's describing this green one moved around the ceiling really slow, and then it went out the hallway and out the lower window, whereas the first light went out the upper living room window. Now I'm still completely convinced the guy had a dream. And he said, no, it wasn't a dream. I know what I saw. I'm glad you're alive. And he got up, got dressed, and left. And the guy was really great, but what a way to lose a relationship. What a way to end it. For this guy to see that Patty's not making stuff up. She, you know, this was a house where I fed so much wildlife by hand that I deserved to have balls of light come through the wall, but I hadn't seen them. And it was definitely the last time he came up and spent the night at my house. But it certainly opened my eyes to a whole new reality. And I am so glad I did this interview and remembered that story, because that was where it all began. I totally forgot. I totally forgot that that's where those words came from. And that was 2001. 2004, weird stuff happened. In 2006, I hit the crop circles because life was too weird on Earth. And all this probably started that night with that sweet guy in my room trying to wake me up. He said he shook me so hard that the headboard was hitting the wall. And when he said that, he really almost had tears in his eyes. I got up, I walked around the bed, and I looked on the floor, and there were chips of paint and plaster on both sides. And it wasn't from crazy activity. It was from him in a panic, trying to wake me up. And he said, I couldn't wake you up. In which case, perhaps I had been taken. Now, I don't know. But then when I made Crop Circle Diaries, movie number 8, I remembered where they took me, and it's all in the film, Crop Circle Diaries. On my website, cropcirclefilms.com. And if you want to be nice to yourself, /free, Crop Circle Diaries is free. All you guys need to watch it and stop watching the BBC when they talk about science in crop circles. So, oh my God, that was fabulous. I'm going to be in my light for the rest of the day, remembering. I'm going to call that old boyfriend too. So, you remember that night? I'm sure he does.
Oh wow, this has been such a beautiful experience, because you have by bringing to us all of this and the hope that the 2019 crop of crop circles are bringing, and because this is all about planetary and human ascension, I think, and expansion of consciousness. For those who can see it, for those with eyes to see, ears to hear, mouths to speak.
But also, it's not what you see, it's what you don't see. That's our ending. Take that to the bank.
Whoa. Well, Patty Greer, award-winning UFO filmmaker, cropcirclefilms.com. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Alfred.
And we hope that you will come back and join us soon.
I
Again,
always will. Thank you, even though I've been hiding. And also, Chris's website is c60evo.com for the C60. That stuff is super good.
beautiful.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.